Welcome, everyone, to our trauma-informed mindfulness questions and answer sessions. It's lovely to see so many of our UK Sangha, and we are very, very happy and very grateful to have teachers and representatives of EMBRACE Sangha who are in the US. And we're very grateful for them to be here today and to offer this session for us and to bring deeper understanding and awareness of the trauma-informed mindfulness practice. And EMBRACE Sangha are the Plum Village practitioners and Dharma teachers who are interested who are interested in learning deeply about the trauma-informed mindfulness practice. And we have Joanne with us, Joanne Rosen, who is a Dharma teacher in our tradition from the US and who also authored the book Unshakable, the Trauma-Informed Mindfulness for Collective Awakening. And the session today is recorded so that people who can't make it could also benefit from the questions being answered. If you happen to be on camera and after the session do not wish to be for the video to be shared any further, please contact me on kasha@plumvillage.uk. And we will make sure it's edited out. And we will ask you to keep your mics muted and cameras on if you can, so that we can all see each other. And I think that's it from Practicalities. On behalf of Plum Village UK, very welcome to Joanne and Vivian, Naomi and Maria, who are representing EMBRACE Sangha, and welcome to all of the UK representatives and all of you who joined us from Plum Village UK. So I'll bow out and pass to Joanne.
Thank you, Kasia. Thank you, Elizabeth, for inviting us to this exciting event. I just want to start by encouraging you to skim through all the little rectangles. I see two people I know already, Sophia and Leslie. And when I saw those faces, it was like, ah, and that's juicing me for whatever is to come. So I imagine you have folks that you recognize if you've been in the Sangha a while. And so just take a moment, not only to look, but also to notice what happens inside. Maybe you don't see any familiar faces, but you see an appealing face or a kind face or a joyful face, and just notice what happens inside. And I want to encourage you to not just look around to see if you're the only one of something, which may make us feel more anxious or subdued, but to really hunt out those qualities that are bringing you a sense of well-being. And really, if we wanted to, we could spend our whole 45 minutes doing that. And that's embrace. That's knowing that we're going to become dysregulated many, many, many times, and how to notice it, and how to re-regulate ourselves and how to fortify ourselves in advance so that that happens less. And with that, I want to pass it on to Vivian Ephraimson Apt from Colorado, also a Dharma teacher, who has been offering these kinds of practices to the whole Colorado State University faculty and student body for years. So this is nothing new, it's just infiltrating our practice. Thanks, Vivian.
Thank you, Joanne, and thank you, Cassia, for organizing this, and Elizabeth for helping, and Nomi and Maria for being here. And I also want to mention that I think Alexis Singer-Tellis joined us, who is also part of the EMBRACE community. So you might be hearing from her as well as we go into questions and answers. So I want to greet you from the Rocky Mountains of the United States. And we have a very snowy weekend here and a great chill. So it's been a weekend of cuddling in and staying warm. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that where I am located. So we're going to go into a brief practice. And this is a tracking, grounding, and resourcing practice. And so it will be guided. I will invite the bell at some point, but not quite at the beginning, because we'll begin with open eyes. So what I'd like to invite you to do, and again, this is quite voluntary. So as Joanne was really inviting us to do, please take good care of yourself as you are invited into practice in any way. So just finding a position where you can sit or stand or lie down, whatever is beneficial for you in this moment. I'll be sitting. And a position that gives you ease and comfort. And you're invited to first just really look in front of you, wherever that is. So if you're lying down, it might be looking up at the ceiling. If you're standing, just looking in front of you. If you're sitting, just looking in front of you. And just noticing first the colors, the textures, the shapes that are right in front of you. And it could be a quality of light or shadows in your space. It could be anything at all. We're just taking it in. We're just awakening our senses. And the first sense that we're awakening is our visual sense. And then we're going to invite you to take a moment to scan your space. So we might start to do this by turning our head gently to one side and allowing our eyes to roam. We can look down and up, and we can just take in the qualities of what's around us. And we might notice certain things arise as we do that, preferences like I like this, I don't like that. But our intention here is to really just notice the things that are around us and also to begin to focus gently on those things that are nourishing to us. You can turn your body if you would like. And then beginning to scan in the opposite direction, turning our bodies to the other side. And then taking a moment after you've done this scanning to choose one thing in your space that is nourishing for you. And again, it can be an object, but it could also be the quality of light or color. And then bringing your attention towards that one thing that you've chosen and beginning to explore it a little bit more deeply, really allowing it to be received. And as you do that, you might notice the impact on you of this nourishing thing that you've chosen. Maybe you notice a settling breath or something else that allows you to receive this nourishing thing that you've chosen. And then gently bringing your attention away from that thing that you've chosen. And if it's nourishing to you, to close your eyes and bring your intention inside of it. And as you close your eyes, you can also really experience what it's like to have your eyelids support one another as you close them. If you choose not to close your eyes, you can focus on a point in front of you just to bring your attention inside a bit. And you might note that that pleasant thing that you've chosen is always available to you to return to should you need it or want it. But in a moment, we're going to turn our attention towards our sense of listening. And really allow our ears to receive whatever sounds are around us, including the sound of this lovely bell. Really receiving the sound of this bell. Taking another moment to notice the sounds that are around you, or even coming from inside of you. You might notice the direction that they're coming from, their volume, their pace. You might notice the symphony of sound, sounds that are near or far, up or down, in front of you, behind you. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to draw your attention towards your body and notice the contact of your body wherever you're standing or sitting or lying down. So that gentle pressure of where your body is in contact with something else. Whether it's where your feet are resting, your hands, your backside, your legs, your arms. Just noticing the support of wherever your body is resting. And the sensations that you might experience there. These sensations can be things like vibration or pressure, temperature, lightness or heaviness. Now, gently, as we come towards the end of this practice, I'd invite you to slowly open your eyes or widen your gaze and return when you are ready, just taking the light in, noticing what it's like to have more light arriving at your eyes. And then taking a moment to just visit your resource, the beneficial thing that you chose, one more time. And we'll enjoy the sound of a bell to finish this practice. Thank you, everyone, for practicing together. So I think we're going to hand it back to Joanne and taking some time to hear about Embrace from you, Joanne. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vivian. I started up Embrace when I had been exposed to the notion that maybe there was nothing wrong with me for being such an antsy meditator. Maybe my practice wasn't bad. Maybe it was something that I didn't understand about myself and about the practice. And as I learned more and more, I got very excited to find a whole world of support in my meditation practice, in my journey on this path, and an understanding of my nervous system and its inheritance. And I found that there were a lot of people who had a similar experience of, wow, this really explains a lot about me, and I'm not alone. There's so many people who have this going on for them. In fact, almost everyone. And so Embrace has grown in an amazing way. It's definitely been an octopus with many tentacles. And recently we realized that so many tentacles really needed a central head. And so we hired Simona, who's also on this call. We have our head in Peru, and we have our tentacles all over the place, India and the UK and the United States, and on and on. So I think what I would like to do is get right down to why you came today, to hear some answers perhaps to some questions that you have. We offer a study group that takes the intro that you have and that you watched and spread it over a 16-week period where we can learn from an embodied sense, from a real experience of these heady concepts, what we're talking about, and to be accompanied by others who are similarly interested. It's not a therapy group. It's not a group that's going to help you start chipping away at your perceived traumas. It's a group that helps understand your experience as a practitioner and what are skillful means to be taking beautiful advantage of this lineage that we share. So what I'd like to do is I want to encourage you that if you have a question, especially about, what are these groups like and what might happen if XYZ, to put it in the chat, and then we'll take those questions, as many as we can in the time allowed, to give you a feel for what we're doing in Embrace. And meanwhile, you can check out the chat and see what is calling to other people. So let's take a minute to just ask yourself, like, why did I show up here? What would I like to ask? And then put it in the chat if you want.
Joanne, as folks are writing out questions, would it be helpful to share some of what I've heard as the benefits of participating in Embrace?
Maybe in a minute.
Okay.
I'm the kind of person, if I hear conversation in the background, my mind won't function anymore for my
Okay.
questions.
Joanne, this is Maria, so I might be reading some of the questions. So there's a question, who or what are we embracing? And I think it's both helpful to know that em embrace is one of my favorite acronyms because I can never remember what it stands for, but I wonder if we could talk about the double meaning. It actually, every letter stands for something. But then who or what are we embracing, right?
Yes. And just to introduce Maria, Maria is responsible for the successful philosophy of embrace by refusing to do anything that will be beyond her ability to do it joyfully and spaciously. And so we've really only grown in that way. And that has been so helpful. So thank you, Maria.
Maybe, well, thank you for that. I think Embrace has really helped me understand too why I was an Nancy meditator and to better understand my boundaries and how I can grow my capacity beyond those boundaries. But I do think what Embrace actually stands for, I don't know if Nomi or Simone or somebody can pull it up and read it out, because I don't think Joanne and I can never remember. I have to go to the website.
It's
Embodying
mindfulness-based MBR. Thank you.
why we hired Simona.
Resilience to awaken community empowerment. This was an afterthought. We liked the word embrace, and so we made up those words to go with it, but it seems to fit. And it's to awaken community empowerment, that in fact we need to up our ante of how much stuff we can handle and still be balanced, because there's a lot of difficulty coming our way. And this is helping our emotional and neurological immune system be really ready for what we're encountering now and what we have to encounter in the future. So, Maria,
Good.
um,
Yeah.
before you start, I want to introduce Nomi Green, who is a senior practitioner in New Mexico, United States. And Nomi is someone who has developed an incredible resilience and is a psychotherapist who deals with the most difficult clients there are in a way that's incredibly joyful, and that she helps us understand more deeply how we can all appreciate each other and at the same time really create boundaries that are loving and self-care. So Nomi, Vivian, and I will field the questions.
Just want to correct briefly that I don't see my clients as difficult. They're people who maybe haven't had as much opportunity as we have to learn how to regulate. And that's part of why I love Embrace. And I'm gonna jump in, Maria. Who or what are we embracing, to say, first ourselves, all of ourselves, everything about ourselves, nothing excluded, because in doing that, then we have more capacity to address the second half of Embrace, awaken community empowerment. So as Ty always taught us, we have to start with ourselves, and we can't end with ourselves. So I'll pause there, Maria, as you pull up whatever looks juicy.
Thank
Before
you,
you
Nomi.
do that, I have to say, hearing that answer just filled me with appreciation and made me feel like a bigger person, Nomi. And I want to thank you for that. We rush by the answers to the questions, and that for me is the juice. It's like, whoa. So that's part of Embrace, is not to rush through from one thing to another, but to take advantage of every morsel of goodness that we can and still function. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to read out a couple. So I'm not sure I'm saying Guri's name right, but Guri, somebody wrote in the chat, Guri, I noticed that this practice you gave today and on the prerequisite video that there was no instruction about how long the practice would be. This feels anxiety inducing for me, especially as an autistic person. As a facilitator, would it be trauma informed to let people know how long the meditation or the other practice would be? And then Vivian responded to her that usually we do this. So I wonder if you can talk more broadly about trauma informed practice and operating inside of, we've used the words interchangeably, the window of tolerance or the window of opportunity, because this stretching opportunity, right, has been something. So I'm wondering if you could respond directly to the question about time length, but also what is trauma-informed practice? And maybe a little bit is what is the window of opportunity in our, knowing our boundaries and how can we grow beyond them? Does that make sense for the group? Whoever wants to field that question.
Well, I'll
Vivian,
jump
do you
in.
want to?
Whoops.
I was just seeing if Vivian wanted to start. Maybe not.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to start. So first, Gary, I do apologize for not doing that, and for anybody else that might have created some ambiguity. And so therefore, sort of like the activation started to rise. And yeah, I think sometimes actually, I'm not going to say sometimes, for many of us, having some clarity around boundaries does help us settle. And I know that as I work with a wide variety of folks, being clear about time can be also helpful. Saying that this practice is 3 to 5 minutes is one way to create some clarity for folks. And then also noticing what just arises when things are ambiguous and what we don't know, when we don't know, and then how do we manage that? So even noticing, when a situation happens where, like myself, I'm getting on in the morning and with a new group, and so maybe my own level of activation is a little higher, and so I'm forgetting some of the things that I usually put into place to create a container for us to practice in. And that didn't happen. I just totally skipped over that. So I apologize if that was difficult for anyone. And then just noticing, how did we manage that? How did we manage that if that was activating? So part of being trauma informed is also seeing what skills we have to bring to the moment when the environment is not exactly shaping itself in the most optimal way for us. And how do we manage that? And seeing the ways in which actually we show up for ourselves. We do find a way, including giving feedback. So, Gauri, thank you for being courageous and saying, oh, that didn't actually suit me right now. And it probably you spoke on behalf of many others in this room who need that clarity. So even that we're doing this as a collective, we're helping each other figure it out together. We're not alone. So those are some of the things that I think are very trauma informed of, like, how do we co-regulate our nervous systems? How do we let each other know what works and doesn't work for us? And then how can we learn from each other, and how can we support ourselves in moments when the environment is not shaping us, including leaning into support. So I think I'll stop there. Vivian, bowing out.
I could, Naomi bowing in, add a little to that. Part of the question was, how do we build resilience? And I would say we build it little by little by little. And little by little, it expands within us, that it's not like done kind of thing. And it takes time. That's like the practice, like anything in the practice. But there are ways which we teach and embrace that will help. For example, I'm just going to address two little bits. Trish's question of difficult emotions and bodily sensations. And I think to some degree that might be a struggle for most of us. And so there are ways to possibly make it a little smaller, like I'm going to sit with my difficult emotion for 5 minutes, not my entire practice period. Or I'm going to see if I can find one small piece of it to sit with, not take the entire thing all at once. So depending on what you're sitting with, there might be ways to make it just a little smaller, because when we're learning, it's easier to learn on smaller than on the very biggest thing we've got, because we might get tipped over by that, and then it's hard to actually practice with it. I want to give a shout out to Kristen Neff. I teach a mindfulness class to my people each week, and we include Kristen Neff and that practice is very in line with Embrace. And one other thing, I just want to give one example. For some people, the breath is activating. So we've spent our whole lives sitting with the breath, and for some of us, that's not as easy to do as to sit with the things that Vivian was pointing us towards in today's practice. So that's part of it, is to find out if there are activating things in your practice, how do you change that up or work with it or adapt your practice so that your practice is more settling. Our practice is more settling. So I'll bow out again.
And
This is my, oh,
Joanne bowing
you're going
in,
to go, Joanne?
just
Okay.
to say that for some of us, the very thing that's activating is soothing for someone else. So the thought that you can create a space where there's no activation because everybody's told you everything that they've become activated with is an illusion. And that part of being a part of a study group is learning how to take care of yourself and not having the expectation that everything will be suited to you, and that this may not be a space for you if you're finding yourself in this moment very easily activated, that you have to have the capacity to be able to get into just the cognitive of it, and to be able to have some ways that you know you can settle your body and your nervous system, so that you can take in the learnings, as Nomi was saying, in a small way, in small examples, and not to feel like you are jumping into the deep end of a pool where you're having to learn to swim for survival. That this is being in a pool with your tippy toes on the bottom all the time. So thanks,
Yeah,
Maria.
thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to tease out a few more questions from the questions, right? So I think what Joanne's talking about, like, is this sitting in choice was revolutionary for me because I was one of the persons who sometimes going back to my breath was soothing and sometimes it was activating. So today I noticed the yellow color of my walls when Vivian was walking us through that and noticing how that felt. So really expanding those opportunities for choice. So I'm just wondering, Trish did ask about the study groups. I'm wondering if you guys could describe like what a study group session looks like, right? Because we use the word study group, but what book are we using now? What is the main and how? But what a study group session might look like if somebody wanted to participate.
Okay, well, I can answer that. We generally start by playing some music and maybe introducing a poem, and always a guided meditation that integrates settling in and having a sense of well-being, and also to review whatever it was that we learned the last time. So we have approximately, I think, a 10-minute meditation, and then there's some questions about what came up for you in the last reading that you had questions about. We may answer some of those. Then we break up into small groups, maybe 5 people, and spend perhaps 20, 25 minutes up to 30 minutes in that small group where you can talk about the ways in which you understood the material that you had read, how the practices went for you, what difficulties might have arrived, how you felt embodying those concepts. And then we go back into the large group, and we have a question and answer session for the large group, and then some small practice at the end of taking some learning helping create a resource from it, something that will inspire you to go on in the next 2 weeks. The study groups happen every 2 weeks for 8 sessions, and they go along with readings and some homework of embodying or practicing with the concepts. So, anything I missed? Oh, we usually end with some music, uplifting music, sometimes funny, sometimes poignant. Um,
And
Nomi, Vivian, anything to add?
I think you got it.
And also to say that once you've taken the study group, then if you're a Sangha facilitator or somebody who's interested in integrating the material into your Sangha, there's a forum that happens every couple of months, every 2 months, to discuss very particular ways of integrating the material into the Sanghas. There's a deepening practice group that happens in the fall that helps people develop more facility to help others be in touch with the tools that they already have that they perhaps don't recognize, more like a one-on-one mentor in EMBRACE skills. And I think, yeah, those are the main things that we're offering. So this is kind of gives you the foundation to go on to be in one of those other groups. And
thank,
also perhaps to become more central in offering study groups and facilitator forums and things like that.
thank you, Joanne. I think we might be close to time, but I wanted to just read out. Melanie asked a question. I'm thinking Melanie's a parent to understand, find ways to support a wriggly, undiagnosed teenager. And this may be direct, but there's actually a practical question that came up in my mind, which is, do we have an age limit? Like if the wriggly, undiagnosed teenager had somewhat of a practice, could they come into the study group or not? I don't think that's ever come up, but you might want to also directly offer something to Melanie. I don't know. And then I think our time, I'm asking our host whether our time is, we have 3 more minutes, maybe.
Well, it
I
went fast.
I could share something briefly about the sharing of practice from practice. So just a couple things. Joanne noted that I teach something very similar at my university, and one of the feedback that I've received from our faculty and staff is how much they use these practices with their families. And I just want to say, you know, a regulated adult in our life as a child has so many benefits. So I just want to say, whatever you do for yourself as a parent or as an adult in another child's life can be very beneficial to that child. But I've also heard parents say that they are sharing these practices with their children in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you for that, Vivian. And, you know, Nick has put one more question in, which I think is a good one. Is there a minimum required level of experience with the Plum Village practice for joining a study group? I think we do want people to have some experience, but I don't know. I've not been involved with the study groups the past year. Anybody want to address that? Nomi, Vivian, Joanne?
You know, I think that it's not so much whether you have experience in the Plum Village practices as much as the Plum Village culture of Dharma sharing. That when you have an awareness that you are not only there for yourself, but you're there for the group, then you hold yourself and that group in a different way. And so the culture of consideration, kindness, creating, as the fourth mindfulness training of the five says, to use our words for building our confidence and our joy, is really important. And that's not to say that it all has to be sweetness and light and Pollyanna, but there is a way of holding care that many people have, whether they're in a Sangha or not, and some people in Sanghas don't have it. So that's the most important ingredient for me.
Thank you so much, Joanne. I want to give it back, I think, to Kasha and Elizabeth. So one of the things that helps me stay regulated, I appreciated the question about time, because I have this thing for beginning on time and ending on time, that I notice irritation arises if those aren't met. So I just want to give it back over to you two.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone. Thank you, Joanne, Vivian, Nomi, and Maria for hosting that session. I did want to check if you would like to close it in a way, Joanne. So if people need to go, because I'm aware we have run over time for a couple of minutes, please feel free to bow out, and we'll stay perhaps 5 more minutes. Is that enough, Joanne? 2 more minutes. Oh, there you go. 2 more minutes to close this session. And yes, again, much gratitude to everyone on the call, and especially to Joanne, Vivian, Nomi, and Maria for hosting this session. I'll pass on back to Joanne.
I just want to encourage you to think about the last 45 minutes and notice how you felt when you came in, and whether there was anything that sparked you. It could have been the way somebody presented the answer to a question, or even the fact that a question was asked. Just some moment where you felt alive inside. And to be specific with that moment, what was it? What was said, or what did you see or hear? What made that moment stand out to you? And just to notice where, if at all, that experience comes alive inside. Maybe feel the weight of your body, if that feels grounding as you think about this. Or to breathe into that space, if that feels supportive. And give yourself some appreciation for showing up. And also to Cassia for allowing this to happen, to have the vision and the energy to make it unfold for us all. Thank you.